Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the keyonmillions.co. Here is my media feed. Here is my profile so that you will know it's me. And here is my current here is my current merchandise. We will be having new merchandise within the next few weeks, and I cannot wait to display it on the show for all of you. So now let's get to the the three big game slate that was on the docket last night for the NBA. Now the first game was Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Detroit Pistons. Now, here's one thing that I want to say about the Pistons. They still need a third scorer. They do, because as you can see, when it comes to their statistics, you have Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren, two players that scored the same amount of points. And then there's a significant drop off when it comes to scoring. Detroit Pistons, they need a third scorer because you cannot just have Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren scoring 29 points in a game. Then you have Duncan Robinson. Now, we all know that Duncan Robinson, he is a three-point shooter. He had 16 points last night. Tobias Harris, he needs to increase his play, because 24 minutes and 4 points, it's not going to cut it when you are playing with Boston, Cleveland, Toronto, all those other teams that you may possibly have to face in the playoffs. And as far as bench production was mainly, average. You had Paul Reed, 8 points. Ronald Holland II, 8 points. Javonte Green, 6 points. Caris LeVert, 9 points. Kevin Huerter, 0 points. And Dennis Jenkins, 4 points. Now, one thing that I can say about the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, Alex Caruso, he was out last night. And SGA, he is still out. So it's already been 60 games. The Thunder has already played 60 games, so that means there's roughly about 20 to 22 games left. And when you have one of your top players out of the game, it should really not. Well, mainly the Thunder, they really shouldn't have been this close in the game, because there was a lot of times in this game where OKC, they had the lead. But I would say over the past 4.5 weeks, possibly 2 months, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have been, pretty much, slow rolling everything, meaning that they're trying to keep momentum as far as wins concerned. But I am going to tell you, when it comes to the recent standings in the Western Conference, you have Oklahoma, 45 wins, San Antonio at 42 wins, and both the Thunder and the Spurs, they still will play each other later on in the regular season. I believe maybe the 2 of the last 3 weeks, they play each other maybe once or twice. So there is still a whole lot that is left to be desired when it comes to the Western Conference. Now, once we get to the statistics concerned, all in all, Thunder, they had a bad shooting night. As you can see, 18 of 49 from the three-point line, 37%. Detroit Pistons didn't do much better, 9 of 27, 33%. Free throw percentage, 95% for OKC. And for the Pistons, 73%. Now, Detroit Pistons, only thing that's going to hurt the Detroit Pistons is lack of scoring outside of Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham. That is what is going to hurt them. So I believe that when you go back to their lineup and their list, Tobias Harris is really that diamond in the rough. He really is, because everybody else puts up their average. You have, and I know Azure Thompson, he is going to do more in the playoffs than the regular season. But Tobias Harris, he's got to do more. He's got to do more. He can't just have 5 shots. Maybe if Tobias Harris has, I'm going to say 12 to 15 shot attempts a game, obviously the Detroit Pistons, they will put themselves in a better position and better situation. You may not, if you have, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to be done with this segment right here. If Tobias Harris, if he averages 15 to 20 points per game, that will go a long way for the Detroit Pistons, because the way it looks right now, majority of the times that the Pistons play, Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham, they almost have to be efficient every night in order for the Detroit Pistons to have a chance at winning. Now, OKC, they don't have any glaring problems I see. Only thing I see is OKC, they are just waiting for the playoffs to get here. And OKC is still the odds-on favorite to win the NBA Finals and the NBA Championship. For the Detroit Pistons, best case scenario for the Detroit Pistons is to win in the second round and make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Worst case scenario, lose in the first round again, because the Detroit Pistons, their team is pretty much the spitting image of OKC, but they just lack playoff experience. That's all. And as you can see, coming down the stretch in this game, where pretty much Detroit, they had the game firmly in hand, as you can see right here. This was late third quarter, and it pretty much, when it got to the fourth, it started getting tight. So last 6 minutes of the game, up by 8, Detroit up by 8, now up by 5. And dare I say, this may be an NBA Finals preview. We may have just seen the NBA Finals last night, but we just didn't know it. That's what I'm thinking. I seen this game as an NBA Finals preview, and I saw the Celtics and the Denver Nuggets as an NBA Finals preview. I'm going to get into that a little bit later on, but as you can see, the last minute of the game, see, this is where games are won and lost, even though that sounds like a cliche, but it reigns supreme. It do. Even when the Pistons were up 4, then they go up by 6, under 30 seconds left. And that was pretty much the game right there. So Detroit, they did what they were supposed to do. They lost to the San Antonio Spurs a couple nights before on, I would say, Monday. And everybody thought that, Detroit, they pretty much was going to They took a step back, regrouped, regathered themselves, and now we get to the Spurs and the Toronto Raptors. Now, Toronto Raptors, nobody expected the Toronto Raptors to be this high in the standings, and nobody expected the San Antonio Spurs to be this high. I said after last season that the Spurs would be a dark horse to make the playoffs, but I didn't expect the San Antonio Spurs to be number 2 in the Western Conference. I really didn't. And as you can see, when it comes to San Antonio, Julian Champagne, 10 points. Victor Wembanyama, 12 points. De'Aaron Fox, 20 points. Devin Vassell, 21 points. Stephen Castle, 13 points. Bench production for the Spurs. You had Harrison Barnes, 8 points. Keldon Johnson, 2 points. Carter Bryant, 3 points. Luke Cornett, 6 points. And Dylan Harper, 15 points. Now, the Spurs, I'm going to tell y'all something about the Spurs. And I did a segment about the Spurs earlier this month, talking about their schedule and how they are going to be a tough outing for anybody in the playoffs. So as of right now, the Spurs, they are at the second spot in the West. So if everything goes well and they keep this momentum, ride this momentum into the playoffs, the Spurs, they'll be facing the Phoenix Suns or the LA Clippers, the winner of the 7-10 matchup in the play-in tournament, since Phoenix and the Clippers are in the play-in tournament. Yeah, Clippers are in the play-in tournament. So the Spurs, I want to get back to the Spurs because I see where Victor Wembanyama. Now I'm gonna tell y'all something. Victor Wembanyama, I'm gonna tell y'all something. He does have to score. He wasn't efficient last night, and we're not used to seeing Victor Wembanyama just score 12 points in a game. But during the playoffs, Victor Wembanyama, he is going to have to be efficient and also play good defense. I believe that if the Spurs, whoever the Spurs opponent is, if they make Victor Wembanyama play both sides of the floor, by the time he gets to the fourth quarter, he will be worn down and worn out. Now, Victor Wembanyama, I could see Victor Wembanyama averaging 5 blocks in the playoffs in every playoff series because it's hard to shoot over Victor Wembanyama when you have a 6'4" player dribbling the ball trying to shoot over a 7'1" or a 7'2" guy. It is going to be impossible to make a shot with the type of wingspan and length that Victor Wembanyama has. But back to what I was saying, as far as the Spurs, they were pretty lucky to get out of Toronto with a win last night because throughout the entirety of this game, it was just going back and forth. And I'm gonna say this: the Toronto Raptors, 4 of their 5 guys in the starting lineup had at least 15 points. That's great. Now, Colin Murray Boyles didn't have an efficient night. Only had 4 shots. So we all know that he is going to have more shots the next time that he plays. But Brandon Ingram, 20 points. RJ Barrett, 12 points. Scotty Barnes, 15 points. Colin Murray Boyles, 4 points. And Emmanuel Quickly, 20 points. Bench production. Sandro Manisquilvia, Squilly V, 2 points. Trace Jackson Davis, 0 points. Jamison Battle, 2 points. Jacob Poloti, 15 points. Jamal Sheed, 12 points. Jacoby Walter, 5 points. And coach's decision, Gary Temple and Grady Dick did not play. Now, one thing that I can say about the Toronto Raptors is right now, let's see, the Toronto Raptors, they are at the number 5 spot. Number 5 spot in the East. And if the playoffs were to start in a few days, the Cleveland Cavaliers would be facing the Toronto Raptors, and I believe that the Cavaliers would be able to edge out the Raptors in a 7-game series when it comes to playoff experience. That is exactly what I see. When it comes to playoff experience, the Cavaliers, they have the edge over the Toronto Raptors. So as of right now, I'm just giving y'all potential first-round playoff matchups. I am. Now, I just want to talk about the last few minutes of the Spurs and Toronto Raptors. Now, the game was tied at 96. Now, see, this is what you can't have happen if you're the Toronto Raptors. You cannot let a 4-on-5 matchup come and have a wide open shooter make a shot. Now, as you all can see, Toronto Raptors, they go to Brandon Ingram, and Brandon Ingram has been an efficient scorer throughout the entirety of this season. But one thing that I can say about the Toronto Raptors is outside of maybe a first or second round exit, I don't see the Toronto Raptors getting past the second round. I don't. Because I can see a team, even if the Cavaliers don't beat them, I can see a team like, let's say, team that is 3 right now, let's say 4 or 5, and then they will play the team of 3-6. Either the Philadelphia 76ers or the New York Knicks could possibly beat the Toronto Raptors in a 7-game series. That's exactly what I see, but I want to get back to these highlights. The last 2 minutes of this game, it got down to the nitty-gritty. The Spurs were up by 4 with under 2 minutes left. The Raptors, they go down, score again. They get it back down to a 2-point deficit. And this was pretty much mano-a-mano, and everybody was going blow for blow. And this was, that was a ridiculous shot. Now, this is the part where I say you got to have a closer, and the Spurs have their closer in De'Aaron Fox, as you all can see. De'Aaron Fox is the closer, and that is exactly what we have been looking for somebody to close on the Spurs consistently, and that was an excellent, and I do mean an excellent closeout block. Victor Wembanyama, he was at the free throw line. He made both of his free throws. Coming back up, Brandon Ingram had a good look at a 3-point shot, hit the backside of the board, and that was pretty much the game right there. And that was a really good game, and I would not be surprised if both of these teams take their first round matchups to the limit, because I can see the Spurs playing a 7-game series in the first round, and I can see the Raptors playing a 7-game series in the first round. So playoff positioning. The San Antonio Spurs will play the winner of 7-10 in the Western Conference. They will either be playing the Phoenix Suns or the Los Angeles Clippers, but there's so much that can happen between now and the end of April. And for the Toronto Raptors, well, the Toronto Raptors, they would be facing the Cavaliers right now if the playoffs started next week. They would be. So that all in all, it was a very, very good game between the Spurs and the Raptors. The last game on the docket for last night was another NBA Finals preview, I think, in the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets. Now, I'm going to tell y'all something. Boston Celtics, I still think that the Boston Celtics are the best team in the East by default, because everybody else in the East, they have flaws. They do. Boston Celtics, as you can see when it comes to their scoring last night, it pretty much took a step back than the previous night. Sam Hauser, he played 24 minutes, only had 5 points. Namas Quetta, 10 points. Derek White, he had his average 20 points. Jaylen Brown, back from injury, 23 points. Baylor Sherman, 9 points. Bench production for the Boston Celtics. Delano Banton, 6 minutes, 0 points. He only had one shot. Only had one shot, and he was a non-factor out there on the floor. Nikola Vucevic, 23 minutes on the floor, and you only had 2 points. Got to have more from Nikola Vucevic. Luke Garza, same exact thing. 6 points, only had one shot, and wasn't able to do anything. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, contrary to the belief, but by the time that the fourth quarter, the middle part of the fourth quarter had started and the Denver Nuggets had a 15-point lead, Boston, they pretty much just called off the horses, took all of their starters out, and emptied out their entire bench. And that is why you are seeing all of these minutes between the bench players fluctuate. Peyton Pritchard, 28 minutes, and he had 3 points. Ron Harper Jr., he had 11 minutes. He played 11 minutes, and only had 3 points. Jordan Walsh, 14 minutes, 4 points. Hugo Gonzalez, he played 10 minutes and only had 5 points. Now, for the Denver Nuggets, Cameron Johnson, 35 minutes, 11 points. Nikola Jokic had another triple-double, 30 points, 12 rebounds. Well, almost had a triple-double, but he had a double-double. 30 points, 12 rebounds, and 6 assists. Jamal Murray. Man, it has been a while since Jamal Murray has went flamethrower mode. And when I say flamethrower mode, I mean Jamal Murray can make any shot on the floor, no matter how much difficulty the shot has. But last night, he was inefficient, didn't have many shots, only had 3 shots. He played 8 minutes, only had 2 points. Christian Braun, 28 minutes, only had 6 points. He only had 5 shot attempts. Julian Swather, 12 points, and in only 26 minutes. Bench production. See, this is where Denver, they emptied out their bench. Everybody on the bench they played. Zeke Naji, 7 minutes, 0 points. Deron Holmes, 5 points. Spencer Jones, 6 points. Jonas Valanciunas, 11 points. Tim Hardaway Jr., 14 points in 21 minutes. Bruce Brown, 28 minutes, 4 points. KJ Simpson, 2 points in 14 minutes. Now we are pretty much, I'm going to say, as I let everybody look at highlights who wasn't able to watch the game last night, if you were living on the West Coast or the East Coast. But as I see this, and I can say that I'm pretty much accurate in future predictions, and these future prediction markets, they're pretty much accurate. So what I see from the Denver Nuggets, I can see the Denver Nuggets winning a first round matchup, but losing in the second round. And I am going to show you all the last few highlights of this game with 2 minutes left, and Denver was up by 15, and the game was pretty much firmly in hand. And as we can get that, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So now we get to all the teams that I had just mentioned. We see where they are currently at. Now the Denver Nuggets, if the playoffs were to start today, the Denver Nuggets would be facing the Minnesota Timberwolves. They would be. They would be facing the Minnesota Timberwolves, and contrary to everybody's belief, I believe that the Minnesota Timberwolves would have the edge over the Denver Nuggets, because when it comes to consistent scoring with the Denver Nuggets, it's been pretty much hit and miss. And with Minnesota, I know what I'm going to get from Anthony Edwards on a night in and night out basis. Anthony Edwards, he doesn't like to miss any games. Even if he has a nagging injury, he would rather play through it. Not to say that there are players that are on the Denver Nuggets that won't play through injury, because I know everybody in the NBA, they play through injury from time to time. But the Denver Nuggets, as far as bench production, it's been pretty much on a decline since their championship year. And the Denver Nuggets, they are on one of the oldest teams, in the NBA. I believe the Denver Nuggets average age when it comes to their roster, I believe the Denver Nuggets average age is 27 or 28. Now, 28 is still relatively young in the real world and in the sports world. But since you have had your two top players for the past 9, almost 10 years, and you've only been able to get one championship out of them, it may be time for the Denver Nuggets to, I'm not going to say go in a different direction, but I believe it is time for the Denver Nuggets to start building their next group of stars in the draft starting this season. Now, I'm not saying push Jokic and Murray out the door. See, if I was a GM in the NBA, what I would be doing, I know that I have Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray for at least another 3 years. I would be building a team that would be better when Jamal Murray calls it quits and Nikola Jokic calls it quits. So in another 2 or 3 years, we'll be looking at 2028, 29, and we all know that the Nuggets, they won't be a contender then, because we all know that the Denver Nuggets, they are going to take a significant step back, if not this season, in seasons to come. And that is why I say that if you are a team that is used to getting to the playoffs year after year after year, you can't have a significant drop-off. Now, contrary to belief, the Spurs, once their players retired, once Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan retired, the Spurs for like 3-4 years, they went through a significant decline. Now they're on their way back up. You got to get you, if you're the Denver Nuggets, you got to get you a cornerstone franchise player, and you also have to give you I'm going to say a reliable second option. Third and fourth option is a huge surplus when it comes to basketball and when it comes to sports, period. If you have four players on your team that can average a certain amount of points night after night, you are going to be in a good position no matter what. You are going to be in those positions where you are competing for championships year in and year out. And I believe that is what the San Antonio Spurs know that they have with Victor Wembanyama. And I still believe that the Denver Nuggets, while they may not have the team like they had during that championship year, they still can ruffle a few feathers when it comes to the playoffs. They still can do that. So all in all, the Wednesday night slate of NBA games, it was downright intensifying, and pretty much the teams that lost, the records, they are starting to fluctuate now throughout both conferences. I see that both the Knicks and the Cavaliers, they have the same amount of wins, and the Knicks, they have one fewer loss than the Cavaliers do. And when it comes to the Rockets and the Minnesota Timberwolves, they have the same amount of wins, but the Rockets are third in the West and the Minnesota Timberwolves are fifth in the West. So there's a lot, and I do mean a lot of fluctuations through these standings that will happen in these last 21 to 22 games. So roughly the NBA season is about 60 games old. Everybody in the NBA has played at least 58 to 60 games. Now we're getting to that point in the season where it's all about playoff positioning. And for the next 4 weeks, the next month and a half, this is the type of playoff basketball that we are going to be looking at for the NBA. It is. And with that, that is my reaction to NBA Wednesday night 3-game slate reaction between the Oklahoma City Thunder, Detroit Pistons, the San Antonio Spurs, Toronto Raptors, and the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube, Key City Sports on Instagram, and the KeyOnMillions.co. We also have new merchandise coming out, and we will also have a new merchandise design. I'm doing a rebrand already on Millions.co because let's just face it, all of the previous apparel that I created, it's all good, but I just believe that we needed a rebrand, and it's just a good time for us to have a rebrand because we are still early in the game. I've only been with Millions for 6 months, so I'm still learning all of the ins and outs when it comes to apparel creation and design creation. But I'm going to make sure everybody in the audience that looks at the show every day, you will have a shirt, joggers, hoodies, and you're going to have downright new apparel, and it will be delivered to your door. All processing, shipping, and handling is free, and it will be delivered right to your doorstep. Now, one last thing, America, remember, the key is always on time.